Absa Off-Road Championships next stop after the season opener in Darling in the Western Cape moves to the hub of tourism in KwaZulu-Natal, Hluhluwe, for what was previously known as the Sugarbelt 400. And judging by early season form, there are at least half a dozen crews in each one of the highly competitive classes who could realistically, in 7 races' time, be called national champions. With the St. Lucia wetlands around the corner and Richards Bay just 100 kilometers up the road, the Nissan Hluhluwe 400 is due to become a classic on the off-road racing calendar. The headquarters for the race will be adjacent to the Hluhluwe airfield, quite appropriately, as the form teams and some of the privateers are already doing some low flying early on. But on this route, which consists of 340-kilometer loops, the emphasis will be on finishing rather than all-out speed. For the organizers, it's an opportunity to expose the sport to a new market and introduce it to new pastures.
We thought we'd bring off-road racing, us at Natal Off-Road Motor Club, we thought we'd bring off-road racing to a new community, a community that hasn't experienced the splendor of off-road racing. And this area has a lot to offer. We've got an area that's traditionally been a game farming area. It's also a pineapple area that is prolific in pineapples. And we just felt that the community has come on board and they've offered us this huge area to bring off-road racing to a new group of members of the public.
And no doubt they'll also get a few new fans on the way. The route on the Elephant Coast will be testing, rough and very challenging for the vehicles and their occupants, taking teams through some game farming areas featuring sand, forests which will make tree dodging interesting, and the track will consist of 3 equal loops of 140 kilometers each, with a designated service point situated at the airfield, allowing repairs and sustenance breaks, while the prologue will be a time trial over 45 kilometers next to the Hluhluwe River for a lot of the time. The prologue will as always be a race against time to secure a good starting position, therefore eliminating riding behind someone and eating their dust all day long. There is another new development in the presentation of the race, an expo a la the Cape Leg, where thousands flock to see the drivers and their chargers before the off.
Obviously, in an effort to market the event, we are offering an expo in the Empangeni area. This expo is going to be based at the Intercity Nissan in Empangeni. This expo is really to market the event to the community, to the new community, and get a little bit of corporate involvement, and hopefully that these corporate people and the public people will obviously be coming up to spectate at our event.
And there is an incredible amount of terrain at their disposal.
We've planned a little bit of everything. We've got some nice fast sections, in fact very fast sections. It'll be along game fences. We've also got some tight sections through the trees. There's some magnificent areas where we follow alongside riverbeds. There's the traditional fever trees. There's fever trees and natural bush. The track has been mowed, so we're really excited that we've got a nice wide fast track, and we're looking for lots of finishes.
The Hluhluwe airfield will do duty as the start for the race proper, which presents the pit area with a brand new look and feel.
We really are spoiled with the pit area this year. We've been offered a pit area alongside the airstrip. So we've got a 1.4 kilometer area, about 400 meters, and we really are looking to use the space effectively. And we're offering a lot of corporate companies to become involved, or more involved in off-road racing, as well as the local community and the areas that support this area to get involved in off-road racing and enjoy the spectacle.
Which no doubt there will be lots of for all the fans of off-road racing, but that's not all there will be to see.
Hluhluwe village is central in the Elephant Coast region, which is in the southeastern part of KwaZulu-Natal. It's one of the 6 regions of KwaZulu-Natal, well known for its wildlife, with the Hluhluwe Umfolozi Game Reserve within 10 minutes drive of the village of Hluhluwe, and on the other side 15 minutes drive down to False Bay, which is the top end of the Greater St. Lucia Wetland Park, a World Heritage Site. The area is well known for its diversity, having a marine reserve connected to a wildlife reserve, and visitors can go to the website www.elephantcoast.org.za and find what they need to look for in this region. With over 1,000 beds for tourists to stay at the various lodges and hotels, we would welcome any visitor who is coming to take part in the forthcoming rally to support this venture.
So that's the sightseeing and nature side of things covered, but the racing will be of a high standard. But why has the sport become so competitive in the last few seasons in South Africa? We asked Atlas Copco veteran Nick Harper.
Well, I think the vehicles have advanced in the last couple of years to a point where the pace is very, very fast. And as a result of that, when you're running at that kind of pace, you need to prep your vehicles extremely well. And then after you finish the race, you basically have to strip the vehicle right down and rebuild it. And that's where car tech comes into it. Previously, there was nobody stocking the kind of stock that we've got here, kind of spares that we've got, enabling a racing driver or a team to come and purchase the stuff straight away, put brand new stuff on the car, get that car race prepped for the next race. As a result of that, we're getting much more cars going faster and a much higher finishing rate. Before, you know, in the old days, if you got the car to the line, you'd win. And the other guys would come along afterwards, fixing their problems as they go. Now you've got 20 cars as good, all prepped well, and all going flat out to the finish. You know? So it's become much more competitive.
The special vehicle category in particular has become a spectacle of note, with more and more space frame cars staying the course, being competitive and making the racing extremely hard.
You know, every year it's been, thanks to Brandon and putting the frames together and developing new bats all the time, the interest is certainly in the special vehicles, and we're selling second-hand cars. They're moving just as quickly as the new cars. And there's a market for these second-hand bats. They're really selling well. And the field is just growing and growing, Class B and Class A. It's fantastic, you know.
And it's fantastic to watch them race too. But it's not just about having a technologically advanced car underneath you. Physically, things have been stepped up quite a few notches too.
I think you've got to be very fit. 20 years ago, I ran my first comrades, and I ran 4 in a row, and then I sort of hung up the running shoes and went onto racing motorcycles. While I was racing motorcycles, you know, the motorcycle keeps you relatively fit because you do a lot of training on the bike. And at that stage, I used to just cycle and ride the motorcycle, kept me very fit. When I got into cars, you know, at first you didn't have to be that fit, but now with the level of racing where we're going sort of time trial pace the entire race, you have to be extremely fit. And I decided to sort of go back to running again, and one thing led to another. It was just supposed to be a training to keep fit to race a car. I ended up running another 6 comrades, and they got my green number. Since I got the green number, I haven't run any more comrades, but I still continue to train every day, and I think that's very, very important. If your fitness levels are high, your reaction time is going to be far better. And you can see it in the long races like the Roof of Africa and the desert race, where we've done extremely well. It's not that I'm going faster at the end, it's just I can see everybody else is starting to go slower, and that's where I seem to have an edge over them. So yes, fitness is everything, you know.
And what about the Atlas Copco that took Nick and Son Ryan to such a good finish in the Western Cape?
Yeah, look, it's a brand new car. Atlas Copco have put in their bit. They've got 2 racing cars out there now, 2 very, very good front-running cars. It was the first time out in that car. We didn't have time to test it really in the dirt. We basically had just time to run it in. The suspension setup wasn't right, the car wasn't handling right, but I mean, 3rd place is a fantastic result for bat racing, Atlas Copco and car tech, you know, so we were extremely excited about that, you know. Hopefully we can get a better place in the next race, after a better setup, you know.
For forwards Brandon Harkis, son of a South African legend Arthur, he was practically born with a steering wheel in the hand and remembers the startup days of the sport very well.
Well, I've been in off-road racing since I can remember, being around my dad. He started in the early 70s. I think he also started with track racing and then finally found his way and probably his home to the off-road. He built his own cars, probably 5 or 6 different types. They were always single-seaters. And, you know, things have progressed so much since then. I think those guys used to do 1,600-kilometer Roof of Africas. Sometimes they get lost for half an hour. They'd break down for 2 hours and they were still able to win the race. So, you know, things have progressed in terms of, say, off-road in the 70s to what it is today. And I think from my dad, I obviously had in the genes, and I started off with 1996 with Group N racing, then I progressed to go-karts. And once I finally also found my home back in off-road racing, I think that's where bat racing started. You know, I went to America to buy myself a car. It's too expensive, too long to wait, and I thought I'll build my own car. So I came back, I thought I'd have it done in 6 weeks. Well, the first car took a year. That first car went to Gary Bertolf, and first time out in the qualifying at the desert race, he put it on second position overall. Sitting on the airplane, Record came up with the name Bat, and we all asked, well, why Bat? He said, well, a car will be as fast as a bat, how the hell? And that's actually how that name originated. And since then, in 2002, we've gone on to win 21 out of 32 nationals. Considering the first year was a bit tough, obviously developing the product, we had a few failures in terms of the products we chose. Since then, it's been really a winning streak for us. And if you look at the past 9 races, we've won 8 out of 9 races overall, including Class B. We've won 8 out of 9. And we've generally dominated the sport since 2003. We've won 3 championships in Class A, being 2003, 2005, and obviously last year, 2006. Class B has been good for us too. We've run class championships in 2005 and last year, 2006. And we look to definitely taking both again this year. Now, we have definitely strength in numbers. We've got 21 cars racing at the last race, 15 in Class A, 6 in Class B. And we make up a third of all entries, including specials and production vehicles. So, you know, BAT's a very dominant force out there, and there's lots of good things on the go. We've got a new car coming, the Spec 3. That's going to take over from the Spec 2, which has been our most successful car to date. The Spec 3, I really foresee, is going to be tough to beat. Lots of changes. It's basically everything that we've learned over the last 4 years into one car. Super competitive, very strong, low maintenance on the car, and I believe it's got the winning package, just as the Spec 2 did, and the Spec 1 previously to that.
The Bats have been dominant in the last 4 seasons, but what makes it so special in the eyes of the owners, drivers and navigators?
One of its secrets is obviously its affordability compared to the US-made cars. The US-made cars come in at about 30% more than us. Obviously, the import duties, the getting the car here, all is excessive cost. We also offer a very good package in terms of if you buy a car from Bat Racing, you're safe in the terms that we'll trade it in, we'll buy it back from you. And that's been the success of Bat. Yeah, I mean, every year in the beginning, towards the first race, 2 weeks before, you can't buy a car. They're all sold, everybody's moved around, changed their packages, moved from Class A to Class B, got a better package. So there's a great demand for BAT, and they hold a very high trade-in value. And that's the strength of our business. We're the only company in the world that would trade in a special vehicle on any new one, second-hand one. As long as it's a BAT, we'll take it back.
Our Nissan Hluhluwe 400 preview on the Elephant Coast continues.
Vehicle and asset finance from